Wow, do I have a lot of stuff to share with you today. Hi, I'm Melanie, and you're watching Yarn Journeys. I am a knitter, a spinner, and a sometimes sewist, and I live in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. If you are new to my channel, well, I am so glad you found me. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Here's what we've got going on for today's episode. There's going to be a whole heap of show and tell. I've got some update on my knitting projects to share, a finished object, some works in progress. I've also been doing a fair bit of spinning, so I'm going to tell you all about what I worked on for the Tour de Fleece, as well as take a trip to Avalon Springs Farm in Mount Airy, Maryland, where they have some lovely and adorable Angora goats. Plus, I got a new spinning wheel, so we'll take a peek at that. And finally, we'll be talking about my plans for the fall. But first, they tell you in those how to do YouTube videos never to say things like, I'm sorry it's been so long since I last posted, or I know I haven't posted in a while, but I do feel the need to explain. Sadly, last month in August of 2023, my mother lost her year-long battle with pancreatic cancer. And the last few weeks working on my YouTube videos has had to take a backseat to all the rest of life that has been going on. I was my mother's sort of main person through her cancer journey. So I took her to all her chemo appointments, her doctor's appointments, and all those things. And I cannot tell you how much knitting and fiber arts things were such a solace to me. I mean, first of all, it was such a relaxing thing to do while I was, sitting with my mom while she was getting her chemo or in the radiology waiting room. And I also got her knitting too. So it was something that we could share other than, well, the journey through Cancerland that we had. But it was also a way for us to connect with others. We ran into other knitters in the various waiting rooms, and it was something joyful to chat about other than the reasons why we were there in the first place. But in tribute to my mom, I would like to share with you one of her finished objects, which she finished a very long time ago. This sweater she knit for me when I think I was 9 or 10 years old. I believe I was in the 5th grade. And it has a lovely story to it. I told her that I wanted to design my own sweater, and would she knit it for me? And so I took my colored pencils and designed a rainbow cardigan. It is wool. The colors are super bright, so I could see how it could look like acrylic, but it is actually really nice wool. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it may be something like Cascade 220. So what my mom did is she went to the knitting store, because it was the early 1980s, and Ravelry and the internet, none of that existed. And she went to a store that's long gone in the DuPont Circle neighborhood of DC called the Wool Gatherer. And she and the person who worked there, whose name was Charles, I remember that, came up with this design, this lovely zipper rainbow sweater. And hopefully you can see it, each stripe has a different stitch pattern. So there's this bobble lace in the red, this sort of basket weave cable in the yellow, orange is straight stockinette, purple is garter, blue is stockinette, and this green is kind of this basket weave. So we've started to go through my mom's things, and I didn't know that she'd kept this. So you can imagine the joy when I found my mom-made sweater in a corner of one of the closets. Unfortunately, I wouldn't fit into the sweater anymore, but I am so glad to have this as a memento of something that my mom and I both loved, which is knitting. So thanks, Mom. And now on to my own knitting projects. I have a finished object to share. This is the Magnolia cardigan by Camilla. I knitted up in Rowan cork, which is a discontinued Rowan yarn that I got a long time ago, I think back in 2004, for a sweater that I never finished. So I love this texture in this stockinette. It really does feel nice and soft, yet sturdy at the same time. The yarn is a mix of merino and polyamide, which I think gives it a different sort of texture. I really love the details in this sweater. I mean, of course, there's the beautiful magnolia motif that the Magnolia sweaters are known for, but there's the lace detail on the cuff. I really liked the bind off. I don't know if you can see it. It's a 2 at a time bind off, which gives this really nice, neat edge, and it is quite flexible. I thought it was going to be tight, but not in the least. And I think it's just a really nice finished edge. I'm going to look to do that in some of my other projects. I will say I need to work on my buttonhole game, but the less said about that, the better. My husband took some lovely photographs of me wearing the sweater, which I will show. I stuck with the 3/4 length sleeves and the cropped body. A number of the knitters who made this project on Ravelry lengthened the sleeves and lengthened the body. But given sort of how this is just a lot of sweater, I actually think that the crop sleeves and crop body are most flattering on me to my taste anyhow. So yay, a new sweater in time for fall. So I'll be looking forward to wearing this soon. On to some works in progress. I am about 3/4 of the way through the Pressed Flower Socks by Amy Christoffers. The pressed flowers pattern has been all over Ravelry in the past year with the pressed flowers shawl, the cardigan, the pullover, the hat, and most recently Amy came out with the socks. This yarn, which is at Haynes House sock yarn, this is in the color Not Honeydew. I picked it up at Maryland Sheep and Wool. And this is Knit Picks Stroll. I forget the color. Anyway, there'll be links to my Ravelry notes on this in the description. Anyway, I originally got this yarn for Stephen West's Mystery Sock Along, and as I mentioned in my previous video, that ended up being not my favorite thing to work on. So Now that wool has become the pressed flowers sock, and I could not be more pleased with how these colors are working out for this pattern. It is mosaic knitting. You start with the cuff, but it is an afterthought heel. So essentially, the toe and the heel are knit the same. So got I'd say, well, I'll probably finish this in the next week or so. I did try on this sock. It is a bit snug, but my experience with hand knit wool socks is that they do stretch a little bit as you wear them. So I guess I didn't bank on the fact that with the mosaic knitting and the color work, the fabric is a little bit more snug than if you are just doing, a single stranded project. So, have you made any of the pressed flowers patterns? Were you pleased with how they came out? I'd like to know. And speaking of iconic patterns, I finally cast on a ranunculus. It's hard to see here, but I think I must be one of the last knitters on the earth to start a ranunculus. I feel like, and I realize that I only feel like, that everybody and their brother and sister and dog and cat have knit a ranunculus by now. But I am now too. The yarn I am using is Layla Bella Soft Cashmere. I bought this on my trip to Venice this past January. Of course, because it is red, I could not resist. And I am now, working through the yoke. It is a lot of fun, I have to say. Now, this yarn is super, super thin. One might say it's even cobweb-ish, definitely lace. I found another knitter on Ravelry who had knit a ranunculus with this exact same yarn and color, except she did it in just a single strand. So I got some tips from her. I am knitting it in double so that it gives me more of a fingering weight, so that it is a little bit easier to handle. It is making this very meshy fabric. So this will be one that you're going to wear with something underneath. But I think this would make a lovely holiday time sweater. So we'll see how I progress on that. But red cashmere sweater coming up. It's a really fun pattern. I can understand why it is so popular. So more updates on that to come. So other things I have been knitting. I mentioned a few episodes ago that I was doing the Knitting Guild Association's basics class to see if I liked working in that way. And I did finish it, and it was really rewarding. So I decided to take on the Knitting Guild Association's Master Hand Knitting certification. It's going to be a big project. And if you're not familiar with the TKGA's Master Hand Knitting certification, there's a number of YouTubers who have spoken at length about that, mainly Nerdy Knitting, for example, as well as Roxanne Richardson. A lot of people who I respect for their knowledge and thoroughness have undertaken to become a master of hand knitting through the TKGA. And, well, I decided to see if I would take on that challenge. It's a lot of knitting swatches like this one. I haven't snipped the ends off this swatch, but here I am demonstrating decreases made on the purl side. I am having to do a lot of work on the finer points of knitting well, such as making sure my tension is even on both the knit and purl side. So I know that I row out sometimes. So I worked very hard on this swatch to make sure that you can't see any gutters, particularly on the purl side. This is a lot better than it has been. So I am right now just in the thick of level 1. It's a lot of researching, a lot of practicing the finer points of knitting well, as I said. It is a lot of work that seems at times to be tedious, but I can already tell that my knitting is improving quite a lot by working through the exercises. I'm on this channel, I'm probably not going to go on about it at length in detail, but at some point, maybe perhaps when I have finished all of level 1, I'll dedicate a video to how I found level 1 and how progress is going. Let's get into some spinning, shall we? I made it my mission for this year's Tour de Fleece, when I had time to spin, that I was going to get as confident as I could with woolen style spinning. So woolen spinning is characterized by a spinning technique where you allow the twist to come into your fiber. The yarn is a lot fluffier, it can be a little bit fuzzier, whereas worsted style spinning, you are smoothing the yarn as you are drafting. Woolen is, I heard Jillian Moreno describe it as kind of like a party trick, because when you get how to do it, you kind of get it, and it's not easy to explain how or why all of a sudden it clicked. So what I decided to do was to dive into my stash and pull out all my woolen prepped fiber. That would be things like bats and roving, as opposed to combed top, which is a worsted style of fiber prep. So what I had on hand was a lot of Avalon Springs Farm wool and mohair mix roving. And I think I may have shown one of these skeins before. So I'm not sure, I don't remember which one I was working on in the last episode, but I got these last summer, and these are some fluffy, squishy yarn that I made on my Ladybug with a supported long draw draft. This is called Brook and Trees. So yeah, this is the one I made first. And it is a combo of merino, polypay, mohair, and alpaca. So then I dived into my next roving from there, and I made this lovely skein, which is Avalon Springs Farm. It's called Spring Peachtree, and it is a combination of wool, mohair, and Angelina. for a little sparkle. And I was like, oh, these look nice together. And no, I started off with Tour de Fleece thinking I am not spinning for a project. I'm just going to spin to spin and spin some more. I then got to thinking, ooh, this wool mohair stuff, it's really fluffy, it's kind of nice. And I found in my stash, whoops, my yarn got caught on my ring there. So I went into my stash and I pulled out some comb top from Hedgehog Fibers that was blue face Leicester and mohair. I'm going to show a picture of it right here. So, but this was top. I think that this was originally created perhaps to be sock yarn, because oftentimes people will add mohair into a fiber prep for socks because it adds strength and it's a bit of a longer staple. But I was like, well, I have this mohair and with BFL, but I need to be able to do long draw with it. The fiber was also fairly compacted. So what I did was I put it onto my blending board. This is my first time doing this, by the way. So I didn't want to film it lest anybody think I was demonstrating the proper technique. And I made rollags with it. So then I spun some woolen yarn with the rollags I made. And this is just lovely, soft, and squishy to ply with BFL and mohair. And wait a second, hey, check that out. So then after seeing how pretty these three yarns I had made look together, I then had a thought about how I could make a project. Even though I said I wasn't, I changed my mind. And I already have the pattern for Andrea Mowry's Inclinations shawl, which is made for Spin Cycle's Dream State, which is their worsted weight yarn. But I'm thinking I need to get more of Avalon Springs Farm wool and mohair roving. So off I went to Mount Airy, Maryland. And why don't you come with me to see what they've got there? I visited Avalon Springs Farm on one of the Fiber Art Studio Tour days. The hand-dyed yarn there is so colorful and pretty. I was tempted to get some of these dryer balls. The jewel-toned boucle was also spectacular. But I was here for the farm-grown, hand-dyed, beautifully blended roving. And to see the adorable Angora goats. They're handsome animals.
They're really good animals. They're kind of just like a dog, you know.
Yeah, they like the attention, that's
Yeah.
for sure. And afterwards, we went to the Woodburn Creamery and Orchard to get some peach pie. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please do hit that like button. It definitely helps people like yourself who are enjoying this kind of content find my channel, and I would be so deeply appreciative Also, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode of Yarn Journeys. Andrea Mowry's Inclinations shawl requires 6 skeins of yarn. Originally, Spin Cycle's Dream State, but I was going for my own worsted weight yarn to make a nice squishy hand-spun shawl. So I got 3 colors of roving that I think will match well. First up is this lovely gold color, and it also has some Angelina in it, and I think in particular that is going to blend nicely with the hedgehog fibers and pull in some of the colors from this bluey mix, and even in this orange pink, orangey pink one. And then I have 2 more bags of fiber. Apologies for the crinkling. So this is the spring cherry tree, which is merino, polypay, alpaca, and mohair. Such lovely squishy goodness. That will help to pull in this one. And this guy has everything in it. And I also got the colorway Evening, Meadow, and Stream, which is this purple blue, which will go well, I think, with this guy as well as this one. I mean, colors change. Sorry for the crinkling. Colors change as you spin them. They tend to get a little bit more muted, so everything will be a little bit of a surprise. But this has been fun, and I love spinning long draw. It is so much fun. It's like once you've got it going and the fiber is sort of just pulling from your hand into yarn, it does feel like a party trick. It feels like spinning magic. So this has been a ton of fun making all this squishy yarn. All right, I'm having a hot flash here. Can you tell? I am like sweating. I'll be right back. Okay, I feel a bit better now. The joys of being a certain age. And you know, I'm sorry, talking about hot flashes, I know it may be a bit of TMI, but it is, well, it is a fact of my life these days. And sometimes it's like I'm thinking, I am into all this warm wool and sweaters, and I'm having my own little personal summer here that comes and goes, but they don't last too long. And anywho, did I tell you that I got an electric eel wheel? Yes, I finally succumbed and I bought an e-spinner. I didn't think I was going to, but then there were circumstances in my life where I thought I might want to be able to bring my spinning with me outside the house. I really enjoyed using it, and I cannot deny that it is convenient to have a spinning wheel that is small and easily portable. And in fact, just yesterday, I brought it to the knitting group at the local library because a lot of people were curious about it, and now they want to get one too. I've been working on hedgehog fibers, another yarn of them. It's 50% merino and 50% silk. I've just been doing your basic worsted style draft. So I just wanted to share with you that I got it. I'm excited to have it. I am going to play with this some more before I really give it a more thorough review. It's been a great experience so far. I know they are all over the knitting interwebs. Let me know what questions you have about my experience with the e-spinner. Happy to share with you how it's going so far, and I plan to do that in a future episode down the line. So let's talk about my plans for fall now, shall we? First of all, it is the Fall Fiber Festival season, and I do plan to be visiting two of them at least. We'll see. And show you all the wonderful things that I see there. What do you enjoy about fiber festivals? Is it the fiber animals, the yarn, all the fluffy goodness? Let me know. I want to make sure that I make you feel like you're coming along with me, even if you are hundreds or thousands of miles away. And I do have some travel plans coming up, both domestic here in the US and international. So I do plan to tell you all about that in future episodes as they come. Well, anyway, the Shenandoah Fiber Festival is going to be in Berryville, Virginia this coming weekend. So I made an episode about last year's Fiber Festival, so you can go ahead and start watching that if you'd like to find out what that's all about. It's a great time. Perhaps I will see you there this year. So until next time, it's you to you around the world right here on Yarn Journeys.